100% did. All right, we're recording now. So hi everyone, welcome to May's ECOpenChat monthly meeting. I am Shannon Moore, and and I'll introduce my co-host here in a second, but today is all about leveling up your coaching toolkit. And while we introduce ourselves, we want you to go ahead. Today, we are primarily not using a slide deck. We are fully gonna do a Jamboard. So Jamboard this is, by the way, this is Becky's idea, not mine or Jenna's, but I wanna give her that credit. But essentially the Jamboard here, it allows for you guys to not have to click back and forth from slide deck to Jamboard. And so some slides will be interactive, others not so much. Welcome, Momin, wonderful to have you from Syria. And so you guys can see my screen, correct? I just did that because what is a Zoom call if you don't ask that question, right? That's all, just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. All right, guys, so this is leveling up your coaching toolkit. And as I and Jenna introduce ourselves, we'd love you to go ahead and shoot over to frame number 2, if you will. And we'd like you to think about your best PD and your worst PD. So the best instances in when you've had great professional development, what were some characteristics about it that made it great? Why did you enjoy it? And then the worst PD, what are some things about the worst PD you've ever attended and what made it not so great? And just for those of you that are not familiar with Jamboard, on the left-hand side here, you can go ahead and add to it in 2 different ways. The first way is you can click the sticky notes. And so you have a plethora of colors, and there you are. And the second way is down below, second to the last, you can see there's a text box there. If you click that text box, you can go ahead and enter in. So we're going to go ahead and let you guys do that. I'm going to pop back over to frame number 1. I'll introduce myself and then I'll let Jenna introduce her. So my name is Shannon Moore. I am a teacher and tech coach out of Visalia, California, which is like Central California, right smack in the middle. I really love Celine Dion. I think it's important to say that every time I introduce myself because it tells you a little bit about who I am. And I love Tom's shoes. I have a husband and I'm a cat mom. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to this year to be over. To be honest with you, I'm over it. But it is wonderful to have you. And with that, I'll throw it over to Jenna so she can introduce herself.
I'm Jenna Ashley. I've got my Google certified trainer and my Google certified coach endorsements. I'm also a high school math teacher, soon to be back in Hampton, Virginia. I'm also 1 semester from my EDS. The end is in sight. But I'm also really excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome, wonderful. We're so glad that you are here. And just to kind of give you a brief overview that's right, Jared, my heart will go on. Just a brief overview of today and how it's going to go. So today is all about leveling up your coaching toolkit. And for all our intents and purposes, it's essentially broken up into 2 parts. We're going to talk about, how as an individual educator, coach, mentor, leader, how you can really enhance your own practices. And that'll focus on a couple things. And then we're going to go ahead and transition. And the latter part of this experience is going to be largely how you can go ahead and talk about different facets of lesson design and delivery and how we can help those that we're coaching build their toolkits, right? So having some ideas to be able to bring to the table and support those that we are coaching. So we're going to go ahead and look at frame 2. Looks like some responses we have are a PD that offers choice for best PD. Would anybody be interested in unmuting for just a second and sharing their perspective on why they feel that way, why they feel like choice encourages a best PD? I mean, we all can say it, but if you don't want, you could also put it in the chat. Go ahead.
I think I wrote that. I just like when I can choose my own direction and make it personalized. That way, if it's something I already know, I can, go a different direction. And the teachers seem to enjoy that. They can go to whatever they want that they need at that time, and it isn't a one size fits all. So it seems to be, we seem to have more buy-in when we have choices.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Ownership, and that's the same as in the classroom, right? Thank you so much for sharing that. We have engaging and learning new things that are relevant to me and that I can implement in my work. So it's a relevance, ones that make you think. Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I think you know, if you're just sitting by mindlessly, it's hard to really buy in, right? Small group collaboration with other teachers, right? Share and reflect together, goal focused with specific needs. I like that. People mentioning takeaways or resources targeted specifically to librarians, right? Absolutely. I agree with whoever wrote this. Would you like to elaborate just a little bit? Because I think the librarian / media specialists don't often get lumped into that reality of educators, and so often get left out. Do you want to maybe share your perspective?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we, have teaching certification, for library professionals. And what ends up happening is a lot of times, unless we make sure that we insert ourselves into conversation, we get forgotten because we don't have like a homeroom. We don't have, specific classes of students. And a lot of times with the librarian role comes the idea that you're just doing one-shot instruction because teachers don't have time for, extended lessons. So you really have to make sure that whatever you're doing, is the most relevant for whatever the project is that they're doing or the research. So
yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think that recently I was able to kind of have a conversation with a librarian media specialist, and I had no idea as an educator all of the different offerings that our librarians could support our students and educators with. And it really illuminated my eyes, and I was able to have a conversation with our administration about the value that exists in that space and really tapping into it. So thanks for sharing your perspective. I don't think it's often a perspective we get. Okay, so worst PD, we have sit and get, general surface training without any research or takeaways, PD session that has a gazillion slides and read to us. Oh my gosh, that's like, if I can give that 5,000 checks, I agree. That's like the worst experience. No breaks, just listen, no interaction, not relevant, not meaningful or relatable, a droning lecture. And that applies to our students as well. And as we're engaging in our coaching experiences, right? Like if we are the ones doing all the talking, that's problematic, right? Because we ultimately as humans craft and cultivate understanding based through those interactions and questioning, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and thank you guys for your shares. I'm gonna throw it over to Jenna. Thanks, Becky, for that last minute Bitmoji ad. I'm about it. I'm going to throw it over to Jenna to talk a little bit about the next part.
So it's funny that we all come up with almost the same kind of ideas of that sit and get doesn't work. When you're working with adults, when we work with students, it's called pedagogy, we all know. And I know Shannon and I had fun there's always fun trying to pronounce this word. Andragogy is the study of teaching adults. And it's all comes down to these 5 main things. Why is this important to me? How can I get through it and learn it? How does this tie back to what I already know? What purpose does it serve? And how can I get past those negative feelings about a topic? We've all worked with a teacher who, I don't want to learn this. Why do I care? This is just one more thing on my plate. And it's a struggle to get that buy-in from those folks. But the number one thing is being able to make it immediately impactful for that person. What's going to help you when you walk out today? What tools can we add to the toolbox? And that's the same things that we want out of PD is what the teachers we work with want out of PD. They don't want to sit and listen to us talk and talk and talk for 100 slides or more. I just feel so bad reading that. It makes my heart hurt. But the biggest difference are those key connections. For students, it's connecting it to something they've already learned, but for adults, it's connecting it to what they can use pretty much right away. If you can't change something somebody is doing today, you're probably not going to get the buy-in from them that you need. If you can give them one tool that will make their life easier today, you have a hook.
Absolutely. So remembering those qualities as we move forward was kind of one of the facets of how to level up your coaching toolkit. And I think I was just listening to a live stream this morning with Teachers on Fire Roundtable, and they had the authors of The Evolving Learner, the book, on there, and they were talking a lot about this idea. Everything that Jenna just mentioned, they reinforced, and I I want to take it and I want to give it to my administration, to be honest with you, because I'm like, come on, like all of the things, like low key, I might screenshot that best and worst PD and send that off in an email saying, see this, hear this, and do something about this. I probably won't because then I'll get in trouble, but I want to, at least I want to. I'm sure we all do. So continuing on that, I mentioned there were two parts to this. There was, leveling up our personal toolkit, growing as educators, coaches, mentors, and leaders. And then we're going to get to how do we support our educators through the lesson design and delivery. The second piece of the kind of, growing ourselves that's mentioned in this unit is the idea of the PLN. And, we talk about this all the time, the importance of the PLN, Professional Learning Network, and how valuable it is to grow your PLN and what that could do for you and all that. And so I don't want to hammer it to death, but I do want to point out a couple really cool points that they mentioned when I was looking through this. So in modern pillars are something like modern pillars of new teaching. There was a woman named Gail Allen, new pillars of modern teaching, doesn't matter, it matters, sorry about it. But Gail Allen, she says that as we're considering what PD we would like to participate in, right? We need to think about three different facets. We need to think about place. So is it virtual? Is it face-to-face? Is it going to be large conference, small conference, webinar, etc.? Is it medium? Are we going to get it from a blog, reading on our own? Is it going to be from listening to a podcast or watching a video, etc.? And then we need to consider socialness. And I hadn't really thought about this before. How do you as an individual learn best? Is it when you're surrounded with people and you get the opportunity to converse? Is it when you are in a mass or sea of humans, 200 plus at a conference, and you get to just sit and get? Because we often talk about how sit and get is awful, but there are some individuals, if we're being honest, who would prefer that method, right? I want to listen to this expert relay information, and then I'm going to go and take it back and process it myself. Or maybe that's you. Maybe you are the individual person who likes to not be social with others when it comes to professional development. And so as you're thinking through that, that helps you then guide your own kind of approach to this idea of professional development. And so, considering that, I just felt like maybe, if we're talking about personalized PD, we have to know who we are and what we like before we can be effective in this regard. The next piece that was mentioned here was this idea of being a connected educator. Now, how many of us have heard that, right? Like straight up all the time, connected educator. And many of us in this room, like we are here because of Twitter, or we're here because we got on the Discord channel or server, right? The power that exists in social media these days for that true connected educator aspect is really important, but it can't just be the social media piece, right? There are facets we learn of a connected educator, someone who's a lifelong learner. That person is going to constantly be reaching out and looking for those different elements to feed their own growth, right? Somebody who takes ownership. And that right there is something that I think a lot of individuals, especially our younger teachers, maybe that we're coaching, don't really understand. It's that idea of I need to be the one that rises up and determines this is what I need. Here's what I'm passionate about, or here are where my strengths and weaknesses lie. I'm going to go seek it out, right? So taking that ownership over versus just being a passive receiver. Uses tech to connect. We're moving into a world where tech is it, right? It doesn't mean that it has to take over, but why would we, choose not to embrace the reality of the tech that exists in this space? Tech to connect is important. And so figuring out are you comfortable on social media? If the answer is no, that's fine. There's this awesome resource called YouTube, right? And with YouTube, you can go ahead and just, go and look up stuff. There's so much out there. It means you don't have to tweet back and forth or join a Twitter chat, right? However, if that is your game, your bag, you really love it, right? You are the person that tech is your thing, then join a Twitter chat, right? And if you don't know like which Twitter chats to join, I've given you a couple examples up here. I'm sure we're gonna have an opportunity to share out in just a second, but join a Twitter chat, build your PLN, go follow people. Guys, I'm the first person to say it. When I connect with someone and I find something awesome on their profile, I have no problem sliding into their DMs. And I know that that's probably in the wrong context saying that statement, but especially if you teach high school. But you know, the idea of saying, hey, really great to connect. I love that you focus on equity, or I'm really interested in your approach to X, you know, people are open to that. And then they respond, and there you go, the connection is made. It's more than just, I'm going to be a passive observer. We have to take ownership of our own growth in that regard. The next piece is sharing and adding like value to others. It's not enough just to be, we need to add to, right? If we're choosing to be a true connected educator, it can't be just like a relationship where one side is investing. We have to invest on both sides. And so growth happens through that struggle. Is it uncomfortable sometimes? Absolutely it is. But when you take that first risk, that small risk will turn to big confidences eventually, right? And then it'll just become normal. Collaboration is the last piece. We always, you know, we know the importance of collaboration. And then don't be afraid to use the social media platforms. Twitter is a huge one. Instagram is up and coming for sure. LinkedIn, I'm finding you can get some great connections. And then there's just something so intimate about the spaces in the clubhouse, right? Where you don't actually have to put makeup on or get dressed. You can just like talk, you know, audibly. And so some really cool things there. Which brings me to my next piece, and I'm going to go ahead and have Jenna guide us through this one.
So we want to know and help each other. Who is the person you feel like has been the most impactful on you on social media? Who should others follow? So on frame 5 with us, grab a sticky note, grab a text box, and tell us, is there a Twitter chat that you like loved pieces that you really taken a lot from? Is there a hashtag that you follow? Is there a person that you follow? You can put your own name up here too. But share with us and share with each other, you know, who's helped you grow as an educator. It could be a podcast that you follow. Hint, hint, we've got 2 of the C's here. Hashtag EduCoach, at Pam Moran. I like that, Kim. She says, my husband and I recognize EdTech people on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube the way others recognize pop culture icons. I feel that. It's like people I've never met have made me a better teacher.
There's also a resource called, I believe they are, here, I'll put it on there, at Talk, Read, Sing. And oops, and it's a account, and they compile all of the Twitter chats, and they announce it for every single day, the times that exist out there. And it's essentially at Talk, Read, Sing, and essentially they give you the Twitter chats for the week. And so if you schedule those into your calendar, you can never miss a Twitter chat again. All righty. Give you guys about a minute or so more. We have some really good resources there.
And what I love is flip class chat, flip chat. Because especially with this craziness that's been this whole year, I learned a lot from them on how to make, we have so little time in person with our kids because we're hybrid, that high flex, that they have to be working offline. Oh, we got one that was shared in the chat. That's a Twitter list. I'll throw that link in there for you.
Thanks for sharing, Elizabeth. Yeah, don't be afraid to put your own handles on there too, guys, so that everybody can follow everybody. And especially if you're not in the Discord server, right? We have an area where we started to put Twitter handles, but we're better together. All right, for time's sake, we're going to go ahead and continue on. Please keep adding. This is going to be open. You can add to it and continue to add to it. And then you can, well, you know, this will be added in the Discord server. And so you can kind of continue to add to it and add on it. All right, we're going to continue. And this next section, you know, oftentimes we will sit and we'll break out and we'll kind of direct your guys' learning and all of that. But today, that's not going to be the case. Today, and then if you want to follow along with me, you can move to frame 6. Today, we're actually going to do a good old-fashioned jigsaw. So in the curriculum for this unit, essentially there were 4 different focuses. So we're transitioning. We're going out of here's our own personal growth, right? With and Andra, say it, Jenna. I can never say it right. Andra, go.
Pedagogy.
That and the importance of a PLN. Now we're moving into this idea of like there's these different facets of lesson design and delivery that we can, if we enhance our toolkit, we can then support our educators that we are mentoring throughout the course of a year or coaching. And so they're broken up into 4 different facets: digital classroom management, differentiation with tech, digital organization and time management, and collaboration. And so this is the point in most PDs where there's some people that cringe at the thought of going into a room and having to discuss. But listen, you all are going to make meaning today, rather than us sit and give you the insight of like everything that was mentioned in these 4 different areas. You guys are going to become the experts. So we're going to go ahead and push out 4 different pieces that you will be responsible based on your breakout room, 4 different pieces that you will, there you go, that you will be responsible for reading. So for example, it's a jigsaw. So if you get pushed into breakout room 1, which if you're not familiar with Zoom, once you get into your breakout room, you'll see a little breakout room at the top and it'll say the number. If you get pushed into breakout room 1, you're going to be responsible in your teams for reviewing the information about digital classroom management. And then if you go to frame 7 on the Jamboard, we want you guys to make this frame your own. So you're going to use sticky notes. You're going to use your text box. You can add GIFs or images. I don't care what you guys do. You have creativity, the creative like license to do whatever. But we're going to ask you guys to come back eventually and share with the community about this area. Now, if you're into breakout room 2, you're obviously going to be on frame 8, where you're going to talk all about differentiation based on the article we've given you. And if you're in room 3, it's going to be about organization and time management. And if you're in room 4, you're going to look at frame 10 and you're going to be responsible for collaboration. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and randomly push you guys out into breakout rooms, 4 different breakout rooms. And then you can go ahead and push out. Jenna or I will come through. If you didn't get a chance to grab those links, Jenna and I will come through and we will go ahead and assign you your link so that you'll get it again. So just sit tight, or people can share it in the chat. That works too. But we're going to give you guys
at the top of each frame.
Oh, there you go. Jenna's awesome. We're going to give you guys just a little bit of time. Again, you're going to read the article or document assigned to your group as a group. You can read it individually and then discuss if you prefer. You're going to discuss the most important points, the things you think are important to share with the rest of the team. You're going to populate your Jamboard frame, and then we're going to call you guys back in 12 minutes and you guys are going to do a share out. So make sure you also designate a spokesperson, if you will. Are there any questions before we head out? If not, go ahead and give me a thumbs up using your reaction tab down at the bottom or in the screen. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, cool. So I'm going to push you guys out. We'll be popping around at 12 minutes. It's 9:26. Off you go.
I'll pop into 1.
Perfect. Then I'll do 2 and 4.
Did you have to announce it was Zoom?
Yeah. So the screen is now shared. Okay. So this is the Jigsaw. We're going to start with group digital classroom management group. So would a spokesperson please share a little bit of insight, maybe 2 minutes or so? 2 or 3? Go ahead.
go ahead and jump in for our group. So in our article, it was split into two sections for classroom organization and management and instructional approaches. So in the first section, the key takeaways we found is being mindful when and where technology is used. Obviously, technology doesn't have to be used all the time, and not every classroom has one-to-one. So just being creative and just using it when it's appropriate to be used. Actively monitoring the use of technology. Just because kids are on a screen doesn't mean they still can't get into shenanigans. So making sure that the teacher is still walking around and making sure everyone's doing what they should. Assigning roles when devices are limited. So kind of like when we go into breakout rooms and we say, oh, this person's the recorder, this person's the speaker, just so everyone has a job. Setting those expectations and procedures, just like you would do in any part of your classroom, and setting policies for use of the devices so they know what's appropriate and what's not. Under instructional approaches, we talked about providing feedback for students. Just because they're doing something digitally doesn't mean that they don't appreciate hearing some one-on-one feedback from you. Helping students to learn those collaboration and organization skills. Sometimes teachers will just throw students into a collaboration situation, but students don't know what that is supposed to look like, so it gets pretty awkward. So helping them with those skills, which they will need for a lot of different things later in life. Making sure it's student-centered, so it doesn't have to be a same model. Since you have the tech tools, embrace it and allow students to be curious. Let students be the experts. Sometimes that's scary for teachers, but allowing yourself to feel like you don't know everything and letting them take charge. And just providing more instructions on how to use tools that then teach content.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Digital Classroom Management Group. We'll go ahead and transition next to our individuals in our differentiation group. Would you guys like to share your insights about the article you read?
We would love to. Kelly or John, do you want to take the floor, or do you want me to share for us?
You can go for it, Becky.
Okay. I talk a lot, so I didn't want to steal your thunder, because we had a great group. And we learned that John can speak Yankee, so that's fun if you ever want to hear that. So we were talking about differentiation, and we talked about quite a few different areas in this, but the big key thing being that differentiation is a word that we need to make sure everyone has the same understanding of, because our understanding of differentiation may be that we are creating groups based off student interest, while somebody else may hear differentiation and think it automatically means that you're only working with your low students and you're going to work with them all year and support in that way, or that you need to individualize your lessons for everybody. And then John brought up that they've been working on incorporating UDL, Universal Design for Learning. And so that helps. It helps the teacher not have to create new activities for every single small group, but instead you're finding activities that can really meet all of your students' needs. And so I like that approach to differentiation, and I think we need to dive into that more. And then Kelly was talking about how with technology and the help that technology has afforded us, differentiation has become more common in the high school setting. And I really like that. For coming from an elementary background, I feel like we hear differentiation so often. I mean, your kids are coming in, some are reading, some aren't, But technology has really given us a lot of advantages when it comes to differentiation. And it's great to hear that it's going all the way through high school.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much from the differentiation crew. Absolutely great points. Let's move to the next group, which is our digital organization and time management. What are some tips and tricks in that article?
So that was Melissa and I's group. Melissa, feel free to hop off mute if you want to add anything in, but we had a really good discussion. We were just talking about like coaches too, like how do we time management and how do we prioritize like what we're supposed to do with so many different staff members, so many different students, even though our focus is staff. But, you know, the custodian needs help with Gmail. Sometimes you get pulled in that direction, and sometimes you're doing a coaching cycle. So just all that kind of stuff. And then we also talked about how coaching, like your first year, one of the tips that we both kind of used was, hey, this will save you 30 minutes. And we quickly became best friends with some teachers. And that's how we started our coaching cycles, was through those quick relationships that we were able to just say, we're going to save you some time if you set up templates or something like that. And so this article was about different tips on organization and time management. And it talked about like using Google Calendar. And I was telling Melissa how I use Google Calendar and I link all my documents for my coaching cycles. So if like we're working on blended learning, I'll put the template that we have for the students that we kind of plan together, or the resources or the articles into the calendar. So then I can quickly save time. Everything's in there. It's not a mess in my drive. And the teacher knows where it's at too. My evaluator, if he ever needed to get in to my calendar, he can see exactly what I'm working with teachers on. And then it also talked about setting up like mail templates and files. So those emails that you continuously send to parents, you could just have that template already ready and then it can just click and send. So just teaching them those skills. Anytime you can automate a task such as like grading or something like that, having teachers do that, focusing on those naming conventions so that they're able to find stuff. And then we loved this image that has like the do, schedule, delegate, and eliminate, because we were just talking about like how do we kind of set that up, and what is a priority and what can we do later, what can we have maybe students do in their classroom, what can we have maybe a parent do, and then what doesn't need done. So we were just kind of talking about that also. And feel free, Melissa, if I missed anything.
she gave you the clap.
No, the only thing I was thinking of was actually was something that Natasha had shared with us earlier, was how do we, we'll see teachers who are completely overwhelmed because they have so much to do. And when we say, hey, you know what, I could save you like an hour of your time. And that sounds great, right? Except for they go, that'd be awesome, but I don't have time for that right now. It's like, okay, you're missing the point. I'm trying to get you time, So Natasha mentioned how she will record herself in her class doing the thing that teachers need assistance with. And then they see that and they go, oh, hey, how do you do that? So it's like it's their idea. So sometimes when I'm in a meeting with the teacher, I'll go, hang on a second, let me just send you that in an email real quick. And I'll do it while I'm on a Zoom with them. And I'll just go like grab a template, boom, boom, drop it in. And they go, wait, how did you do that? And so that's kind of the way that I get in like that. So a little shout out to Natasha for that one.
Whoop, whoop. Teacher supporting teachers. I love that. Thanks guys for the shares. And our final group is going to be our collaboration group. So go ahead and share what you guys chatted about.
Natasha, did you want to jump in? Feel free.
I say we tag team this one.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, you start.
The first part of the article really set the context for us to explain why collaboration was important. And I think a lot of the things we already think of when we think like we know that this is a life skill. We know that this is, you need it for academia. It's something that they push in academia. And then the biggest thing that I took away is jobs of the future. So teams are like, it's going to be an expectation that students know how to work on teams, and not just a team with the person across the way from you in the next cubicle, but globalized teams that utilize technology to stay in touch and to produce and to create things. And also the soft skills, because jobs of the workforce is becoming increasingly automated, and all of the things that computers can't do, those are going to be the things that the students actually need to be able to do. So when you think about the jobs of the future, if we're not teaching our students collaboration, we're actually doing them a disservice. And Becky talked a lot about having the same definition. I think a lot of teachers mistake cooperative learning for collaborative learning when one feeds into the other. So I think that was another thing that the top of the article really put in context, what the difference between those two things could look like, and the way that they laid it out. It really made it clear the difference between like cooperating versus collaborating. And then some tips for doing this correctly. So the first thing was, oh no, I think I might, Kim, am I getting into your part?
That's okay. If you want to keep going, keep going.
How about you go and then, yeah, how about you finish? I don't want to get into your stuff. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the second part of the article basically talked about, the idea that things that we already know, do this, allow the groups to, actually interact with one another. Don't just have them sitting there passively. And when you're asking questions, don't just ask those yes and no questions. Ask those open-ended questions that are going to sort of engage them and make them want to have conversations with one another and reflect on things. But then we sort of, that evolved into figuring out in our roles, I try to figure out, how to make that work, especially if we're doing one-shot instruction. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times, especially for a librarian, you get one chance to work with a group. And so trying to figure out, how to make that engaging for students so that it's not just you're standing up at the front of the room and showing them, this is how you use this tool, or this is how you use this database. And so Natasha and I were talking about, wouldn't it be nice if everybody in our space where we work, came at things from the same angle and all of the students had the proper background information. So you didn't have to do that, here's how you use this and just jump into let's use this. And then, talk about what are some problems that you had using this tool, or, what are some questions you have for the future. So that was, that was the thing that we came up with, and we decided that would be a really good way to do a coaching cycle, was to figure out, some people in the building, just a small group, and let them be your early adopters of that, baseline. These are skills that all of your students are going to need.
Yep. How much time we have left? I have.
Go for it.
Yep. Like for example, because she talks about the do's and the don'ts. Like for example, establishing roles and using technology to help kids effectively establish group roles. What if we had everyone, like we worked in a coaching cycle where everyone worked on having their students establish goals, or even what it looked like to give formative feedback on the process and the act of collaborating, not just the work, and how to use technology to do that. Like, for example, what it looks like to leave a nice little moat comment next to, what students are doing to make sure that they're actually listening to that formative feedback about how they're collaborating.
That's awesome. We are so grateful for all of your guys' shares. Thank you guys for being the experts and teaching all of us. When you have 4 different facets to get through, there's no way you're going to do it in an hour. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to diving in and breaking that down for all of us. If you are interested in reading any of those articles, again, I just popped them in you guys did great. I just popped them in the chat. You guys can go ahead and grab those. We're going to go ahead and continue. We have about 4 minutes left in the session. I just said class almost, guys. I teach online, right? And I want to give you guys a space to evaluate. So I'm going to pass it over to Jenna.
So it is not only almost the end of our session, but it's almost the end of the year for some of us. Some folks were saying that they end this week, which is crazy. We have 23 more days. I know we're one of the later ends of the year. So here's what we want to know. What's been your biggest takeaway this year? What has been, out of all the craziness, out of all the new everything that has fallen on us, what would you change? What would you improve upon? If you could go back and warn year ago you and tell them something, what would you do? Sort of. So leave us a sticky note or text box and let us know what's been that thing for you this year that you just wish you could change, or something that you learned.
We'll give you guys some jams to listen to while you fill out that final closing piece there.
Jams for the jam. Every time I hear that song, I laugh.
Oh yeah.
I wrote a paper my first semester in college, way back in undergrad, and it was on why that song is actually not a love song. It's about a stalker.
Oh, well, you know, we can't all be non-stalkers. I'm just kidding.
It reminds me kind of when Twitter took off first, you kind of would go up to somebody, kind of tap on the shoulder and say, I follow you on Twitter. I did that to one
Exactly.
person, and he turned around and said, oh, that's not too bad. If you're following me in real life, I'd be more worried.
I love that. Can you, while you're unmuted and people are adding, can you go ahead and give us a little glimpse into that Yankee accent there?
It's not a Yankee accent because I was in Virginia, but I can speak Yank. I understand what you talk about, you know, what SOLs and ESOL and SPED and all that sort of stuff. So it took me a while to learn all those terms and stuff. You all
I
are
see.
happy to hear that. Like what was actually more, what was more funny was actually I'd be asked to speak a lot because of the accent. So I remember one occasion I was doing stuff with a couple of students, and we're doing, I think we're getting students to install read write on the Chrome browser. And so I went through the spiel anyways, and Han goes up and says, could you do that again, please? So again, went through the whole lot. And I said, okay, Eva, do you understand? Oh, I got it the first time, but I just want to hear your accent. So
I love that.
I'll actually have a funnier one than that. As I said before, I was working as a EdTech coach in high school, and one particular day I got an email from one of the teachers. Says, John, can you come up to my room straight away? I want this problem I need you to solve. So this teacher wasn't using much EdTech, so I'm really kind of surprised, thinking, okay, the projector's probably gone at this stage, and our IT guys are out on lunch or whatever. So I go up anyways, and she hands me just 4 pages of text, or 8 pages of text. And I said, what's this? I says, it's an English lit class. So they were doing The Sniper by Frank O'Connor. So if any of you are doing AP,
Yep.
I can't remember if it's AP English or not. So one of the students says, oh, it'd be far better if we had the Irish guy to read this. So I had to read a short story to a class of juniors, I think. I don't think they were seniors. And it's just down to my accent. So
Yep. Well, if you have it and you're in a room full of individuals who don't, you know, you're the master. So thank you for actually sharing. It's always fun to hear people's accents. You probably get sick of it, but
well, I don't. I hear it the whole time, so I'm used to it. So
yeah, you're right. Okay, guys. So I do want to be mindful of time. We have some really great takeaways on this, and so I'm gonna just, for time's sake, move us along. Keep adding. It is open and it's editable. So we're so grateful for everything. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time with us today to not only share, but also to grow together and learn together. And I hope that we can take some of these and kind of ideas that have been mentioned today and really enhance and level up our coaching toolkit. One recommendation I would make for everybody is this. If you are a connected educator, if you find yourself on Twitter, or you find yourself already doing all the things we talked about in the earlier frame there, I'm going to ask you guys, take a chance. It is important that as a connected educator, we aren't just receiving passively. If you have insight to share, please share out on the Discord server. Or if you want to take a huge risk, we would love at Global GEG to allow you to have a live stream where you can share with our audience, the individuals that follow us, something awesome that you're doing in your classroom, right? Kim, putting you on the spot here. But if you want to give insight as to what a librarian media specialist world looks like and what they could provide, I think that would be a valuable live stream. So reach out and let us chat. But everybody has insight to share. So that's my challenge to you. Stretch yourselves. It's not enough to just passively sit by. If you want to be a change maker, then we have to do it together. And so upcoming on Tuesday, we have our final book study for our English version of The Courageous Adventures. Frances leads that. I accidentally kicked her out of the Zoom because her name was weird. It was like a bunch of numbers, but so I'm a jerk in that regard, but I love you, Frances, for when you watch this back. We're focusing on the last part of the book, chapters 13 through 15. And then finally, our last last EC Open Chat monthly meet is going to be on Saturday, June 19th. Same time as always, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the final meet for cohort 2. We would love to see you there. Georgina and Jared will be talking about celebrating and advancing success. And if ever you want more information, don't hesitate to visit our website, the ECOpenChat website, bit.ly/ECOpenChat. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Becky.
Yes, thank you so much, Kelly. Our book study did change.
Oh.
It's not going to be the 18th. Sorry, this was a last minute change. It's going
Okay.
to now be the 25th or 25th. Just because there's the Google EC coaches group happening on the 18th. So come to that if you can. And our last book study will be on the 25th.
Just so it gets on the recording and it's there for
correction
image.
there.
There you go. Tuesday, May 20th. I don't know if that's a Tuesday, but May 25th. Thanks so much, guys. We're so grateful for all of you. And we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great week and a good end of the year.
Bye all.